In this video, I'll uncover the real reason that so many people fail at intermittent fasting in order to help set you up for success. When it comes to intermittent fasting, I've come to realize that there's a common theme out there as to why so many people fail at it. You know, when we look at intermittent fasting, it kills me to see people fail because it has so many benefits, whether it's anti-cancer, improving brain function, reversing a health condition, fat loss, whatever it is. It has all these different major benefits that a lot of people are looking for, but they start it and they fail at it. So what we're going to talk about in this video is the real reason people fail at intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about the not so commonly known reasons that people are failing and not getting the results they desire. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Zarowski and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and join our notification community so I can help you excel your health and your life. Let's go ahead and first talk about habits, okay? So this is important, and you might think to yourself, well, what do habits have to do with intermittent fasting? Well, habits have everything to do with intermittent fasting because essentially, look at it this way. If you're someone who has been, doing something for 30, 40, 50 years and all of a sudden you just try to stop, that habit is really going to come in, kind of wear away at you as you're trying to change it, A lot of people go into intermittent fasting, they just think to themselves, well, I'm just going to change up these, eating hours. It's going to be no thing and nothing's going to come in the way of it. Well, there's going to be a lot of things, especially a lot of different mental things that come in and really block you from achieving your goals. Let's talk about some different habits, right? How about coffee with cream and sugar in the morning, right? If you're someone who's gotten up for the past 50 years and you've had coffee with cream and sugar in the morning, that's a pretty devastating habit to try to break. How about breakfast, right? You wake up in the morning, have that big breakfast, right? Because breakfast is the most important meal of the day, so we've been told. So you have that big breakfast, you sit down with your spouse, you sit down with your kids, you have that breakfast, and once again, that's a hard habit to just break off. I mean, even for me, sometimes I'll sit down with the family, they're having breakfast, the kids are having breakfast, and I just sit there and it's like all the kids are going, well, Dad, aren't you going to have breakfast? And I'm thinking, wow, I'd really love to have breakfast with you guys, but you know what, I'm trying to just, stay true to this, so I'm just going to sit here and socialize with you. So it's a hard thing to break. Maybe it's in the workplace. A lot of people are getting together around 10 a.m. and they're sitting down to have a coffee and donut. That's a hard thing to break if you've done it for 30 years and you're trying to improve your health now. So know that these habits are a big deal, especially when you've done them for so long. There's not too many people out there who are doing intermittent fasting straight out of the gates, as in, they're a teenager and they started intermittent fasting. There's very few people doing that. It's usually people who are later on in life doing it when they've already created a lot of other habits. And they're not necessarily bad, right? Like having a nice morning smoothie. It's not a bad habit, but it's just a habit that you have to break if you want to find success with intermittent fasting. Now, let's talk about habits in general, right? So the thing is about them is a lot of people think that you can just break a habit in 21 days, right? They've been told 21 days is all it takes. You break that habit and you move on in life. But the truth is there's actually some studies out there, and we're going to talk about one in particular in the European Journal of Social Psychology. In this journal, what they did is they basically took 96 people and they looked at them over a 12-week period. They're looking at how long it would take for them to actually go in and break habits. They all went and got habits, whether it was drinking, more water at lunchtime to exercising for 15 minutes a day. They all had to stick to a habit, and we had to see how long they would actually, do that and how long it would take for it to just become something that they don't even think about anymore. They just do. And so it took on average 2 months basically for these people to go and develop this habit. Now, basically what they found too is that the behavior became automatic at 66 days, okay? So they really went and monitored these people for a long period of time. Even though the study was a shorter period, they monitored them for a long period just to see what would happen. They wanted to, offer that continued support. And so the behavior became automatic at 66 days. So that's something, like I said, they didn't even have to think about it anymore. It just happened. And then between 18 and 254 days is what it took, right? So for the people who built habits very quickly, they did it in 18 days. For the people who just took forever, it was 254 days. So once again, setting realistic expectations in this whole, intermittent fasting thing is so important. So you may be someone who's at the further end of the spectrum. It takes you a little bit harder to develop habits. You may develop them fairly quick. Now, the other thing that they realized from the study is it wasn't an all or nothing approach. And so, if you fell off the intermittent fasting bandwagon for a couple days, it wasn't a big deal. You jump back on and you're able to still form that healthy habit. The thing is, a lot of people go and they mess up and they go, well, you know what, I screwed it up, it's over, I'm not going to do it anymore. So we have to make sure we realize that it's not all or nothing, realize that it's going to take, upwards of 2 months to go in and actually break these habits. And so we have to realize all these things we love, they're going to wear on us when we're trying to practice intermittent fasting. Let's talk about the next major thing that messes people up, and that's conventional wisdom. That is your social influencing group that you're hanging around with. It's the people, your peer group, that are just wearing away on you by saying, not only like more negative things, but things that really don't hold any realistic weight in science. And so let's talk about some of them, right? Here's some of the conventional wisdoms out there. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? I've heard that a million times. And, I tell people I intermittent fast and I hear this stuff all the time. I'm like, look, do you realize that this is something I've done for years and I've read all the science on it? I understand it. It also is going to wreck your metabolism. That's something that a lot of people are going to tell you. You start starving yourself, right? You starve yourself, you're wrecking your metabolism. If you truly want to lose weight, you need to eat 6 small meals a day. And then when we look at conventional wisdom, which is almost always wrong, there's a million different permutations of it, right? People are going to tell you you're too old, you're too young, women shouldn't fast, you're too skinny, you don't look right, whatever it is. There's going to be a million people who come out there and tell you that you shouldn't do intermittent fasting because of all this conventional wisdom. And the truth is that they have no understanding of it, so you really shouldn't follow their advice. Now, the other thing about intermittent fasting is that I just tell people, like, look, if you want to do it, don't go around telling everybody about it. Don't go around trying to psych yourself up by telling all your friends, your coworkers, and then hearing their negative feedback, and then trying to do it, because essentially it's going to cause you to fail, right? Because if you combine this and you combine the habit issue, then all of a sudden it gets harder and harder, okay? And then I'm going to give a couple other reasons why, it can become a little bit difficult as well. Now, let's talk about unhealthy diet, all right? This is a big reason that people fail. Now, I talk about intermittent fasting all the time and say, look, you can't use intermittent fasting as a crutch for an unhealthy diet. A lot of people try to do that because you can eat fairly unhealthy and do intermittent fasting and still have fat loss. You can, still get some pretty decent results. But the truth is that it causes intermittent fasting to become very hard, and as a result, a lot of people just quit, right? So one of the things you'll deal with is cravings. If you're eating an unhealthy diet, you're gonna have a lot more cravings, right? You're in that fasting window, you're finding that you're just craving food the whole time, you're craving some sugar, and so it's not a thing that you have to deal with if you're following a healthy diet. Blood sugar swings is another very uncomfortable side effect of eating an unhealthy diet and trying to do intermittent fasting. You're going to have hyperglycemic patterns where you have a bunch of energy and feel that you're just, your brain's working well, and then you're going to have the opposite. You're going to have hypoglycemic patterns where your brain just absolutely crashes. You have mental fatigue, you feel terrible, you're getting shakiness, you're getting dizziness, and so you're going to have these highs and lows if you're following an unhealthy diet. All the time when people tell me that they're having a lot of these issues with intermittent fasting, I tell them, okay, well, what's going on with your diet? You need to make sure that you're straightening it up. And typically when they start explaining how they're eating, well, that's the problem, okay? So in general, what we want to do is we want to follow a low carb diet. We don't want to be eating high carb because it, once again, creates that blood sugar instability. High fat is really good, moderate protein. We also want to make sure that we're cutting out the sugar and cutting out the processed foods. When we go and we make these dietary changes, intermittent fasting becomes so much easier. I'll even have people who have done it for a while and they just fall off the bandwagon as far as eating a healthy diet, and all of a sudden they go, I don't know what's up with me, doc. This intermittent fasting is just feeling terrible as of lately. It's like, well, how is your diet? And so it's a very important piece. That's why in my intermittent fasting program, I literally take a ton of effort into actually teaching on diet because it's so important. Now, let's talk about expectations. This is another thing that's so important. Now, when we look at expectations, a lot of people, they want results and they want it now. And unfortunately, we live in a society when it comes to, just general healthcare, that's what people expect, right? You want to lower your blood pressure? Well, don't focus on exercise and eating healthy, just take a pill, right? If you want to lower your cholesterol, don't focus on your diet, take the pill. And you want to lose weight? Well, there's a pill for that too, right? So a lot of people go into intermittent fasting and they want to lose weight. They want to have more energy. They want to build lean muscle. They want to reverse a health condition, but in most cases, they want it now, right? They're going to give themselves a week. They're going to give themselves 2 weeks to get results. First of all, what we have to realize is that when we look at intermittent fasting, it's a natural health technique. Now, when we look at your overall health, true health only comes naturally. So we have to make sure that we realize it's going to take time, right? And also that this is something that we're doing in order to naturally improve our health. And so we have to realize that we don't want to just give ourselves a short period of time, and we don't want to just focus on these types of goals, but we want to focus on more long-term goals, right? How much weight do you want to lose over a 1-year period? Maybe you want to actually get the anti-cancer benefits that the intermittent fasting has to offer, because you know that you have genetic SNPs within your family line that basically is saying that you're going to get cancer one day. So we want to make sure that if you are someone who has cancer in your family, if you have disease in your family, that you're going and utilizing intermittent fasting for not only things like weight loss and reversing a condition that you're facing at the time, but is more of a bigger goal to just improve your health and for longevity purposes. Now, if you're not familiar with intermittent fasting and all the details of it, I'll put a link right up here to a complete guide that I did on it. It's going to tell you everything you need to know A to Z on intermittent fasting, because, like I said, there's so many different variables, there's different hours you can do it within. I teach on everything there. So make sure you're sharing this video with your friends, because a lot of people are falling into these not so commonly known mistakes, and it's very frustrating, right? I mean, if you just walked into intermittent fasting, think, well, it's just about not eating during this time, and you weren't mentally prepared for all these other things that come up, well, then essentially you are going to have a greater chance at failing at it. So give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section right here below, and also be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about exercise, nutrition, weight loss, things like water fasting, and of course reversing health conditions, and hit that little bell notification so you're locked in, you never miss a piece of content. Lastly, check out my other videos over here that are going to help you improve your health, and I'll see you in the next video.